Hello YouTube. So this is going to be my first video, and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do for the first video, but I decided to do the Get to Know You Witchy Edition tag thing. So I've got 30 questions and we'll go through them, and if you have any questions, comments, whatever, leave it in the comment section below. So first question. When did you first know you were a witch? Well, I first knew I was a witch when I was 16, and I stumbled across Wicca through some friends of mine and working at the library. Read books, did whatnot, and it felt right. It felt like this is what I've been missing, really. How long have you been practicing? Well, I was 16. That was 13 years ago. So 13 years I've been a practicing witch. What kind of witch are you? I'm an eclectic witch. I kind of pick and choose what works for me. I don't stick with one system like completely. I like candle magic. I've also dabbled in jars, and I've enchanted objects, made talismans and amulets. I've done a little bit of a lot of different things. What path or tradition do you follow? I don't follow one. As far as deities go, I tend to stick with the Egyptian and the Norse pantheons. They just seem to connect to me better. Is your craft devotional or secular? It is devotional. I do a lot of work with deity. How do you incorporate your faith into your craft if you do? I invoke them when it comes time for big things. I do pray to them regularly. Prayer being a small form of witchcraft. I actually have like a little, I write down little prayers in my book and whatnot that I pray. Are you a closeted witch or out in the open? I am out in the open. This thing is always out and public. How do your friends and family feel about that? There is one member of my family that I do hide this from. And that's because I don't feel like listening to a 20-minute lecture and then get kicked out of the house. So, yeah, I just don't wear it around them, and we don't bring it up. Everybody else doesn't really care. They just, oh, okay, and moved on. They never really cared. Solitary or undercover? I am a solitary witch. I've never done anything with another person. Any sort of witchcraft, rituals, devotions, none of that with another person. Something you wish someone told you, or something you wish you knew when you first started. I wish somebody told me to not be so scared of trying things. Because honestly, the only way I've figured out what works for me and what doesn't is to try things and see if they worked or not. If they don't, okay, we'll never try that again. If they do, okay, that's awesome. Let's continue to do that and set that pattern into a lot of other things. Like I was so afraid to try a new deity, like attempt to connect with a new energy, a new deity, and honestly, just give it a shot. They don't always work out. It doesn't always connect or feel right, but you'll never know if you don't go searching. If you wait for them to come to you, you may never find out who they are. What resource was the most valuable for you in the beginning of your practice? What about now? Books were really the only resource I had in the beginning of the practice. So I bought them. I had my own money, so I went and bought them. And I read. And I read and I read, and I talked with my friends that were part of this. We never practiced together. I'm not lying. We just knew each other. And I talked with them about it, and they gave me ideas, and then I would tell them what I read, and I'd let them borrow my books, and I'd borrow their books. What was your first spell, and was it successful? My first spell, I believe, was a money spell, because my bank account had gone into the negative over something little, and I needed help catching up on that because my father wasn't going to help me. My mother was in the military, so she wasn't home. They are separated. And yeah, it worked. It worked. Somehow it worked. But, well, magic. It worked. What do you do when you feel out of touch with your craft? I try to find a way to incorporate witchcraft into what I've already been doing. So, like, I know my ceiling's kind of gross. I may feel out of touch with witchcraft, and then I'll go, well, but you XYZ. But you lit your candle. And, meditated while watching the flame. But you lit some incense yesterday. But you took a bath. Even if I don't put anything in it. I took a bath. And that is in and of itself a cleansing. Even if it's not what I intended necessarily. Intention is a lot of it. But it's also what parts of your everyday life are inherently witchy. Is what I focus on when I seem to lose touch. Have you ever doubted your faith or your ability? Every single day, all the time. Doubt is useful. Do I have a seed of doubt when I am casting a spell? No. I have to banish that from my mind for that purpose. But when the spell comes to manifest, do I immediately go, oh yeah, my spell worked? Or do I go, okay, so was it the spell? Was it the things it did? Would the things it did have worked if I didn't do the spell? Would I have done those things if I didn't do the spell? Would I have never even had the opportunity if I had not done the spell? Things of that sort. Where it's like, okay, well, and I analyze what happened, and a lot of times it's like, well, everything kind of tipped in my favor, and the likelihood of that happening otherwise, very low. But yeah, I doubt it all the time. I doubt what I'm working with. I doubt if, like, it's a deity. I feel that. Again, it could be lying to me. I don't know. I have that seed of doubt, and therefore I'm constantly working to protect myself from things and take it all with a grain of salt. So when I'm working with deity and I feel them here and I believe I know who they are, there's always that grain of salt where if they are not who I thought they were, that doesn't mean that I was wrong. It just means that, hey, you misidentified. That happens a lot. What are some grounding techniques that you found work for you? Bathing. It helps a lot for me. I am a Pisces, so water tends to help me ground myself a lot better. Consciously, like, meditating and focusing helps a lot. But, just sitting in a warm bath or taking a shower when it was possible. It's no longer possible at the moment, but go for a swim in a pool or go to the lake, stick your feet in the water, that kind of thing. It's always been a very grounding experience for me. What's your biggest pet peeve in the magical community? The way people talk about other people's practices. It's not your practice. You Maybe they are misinforming people. Maybe it is dangerous for people. But all you can do is say, hey, I think you need to blah, blah, blah. There's no need for the hate. There's no need for the I'm going to hex you. There's no need for that just because they don't believe the exact same thing you do. Like, hexing takes too much work for that, man. Curses and whatnot, that's just... You gotta really hate somebody for that stuff, and I'm not wasting my energy on that. I really wish other people wouldn't waste theirs on it. There's a lot of better ways to use it. Biggest spell disaster. The biggest spell disaster. I haven't had a major disaster. I've had where, you know, you ask for one thing and the other thing happens. So, like, I did self-love spells, and it killed my sex drive, because I was working on me, and I didn't need to have my husband, apparently. We'll fix that, but, like, that kind of a thing, where it's like, oh, that was a double-edged sword, and I didn't realize it. And then I go and fix it and continue to work on the thing without the negative side effect. What's your view on black magic? For the most part, I think you need to really think about what you're doing. There's no such thing as white or black magic. Everything is a shade of gray. But when you go into a spell, you really do need to think about why you want to do this. What you want to do. And how it is going to affect them, affect you. Even if it's like, well, no, they're halfway across the country and it's not going to affect me. It's going to affect you. You pulled in that kind of energy. It's going to affect you. You are now tied to that person in some way. You have to think about all the possible consequences of your actions before you go and do something like that. You can put up protections and all this other stuff, and that's great, but there's only so much you can do to protect yourself from yourself. And we are our own worst critic, and I believe that also translates to magic. If I create the magic, it has a greater impact on me than it would on anyone else, regardless of what happens. Especially going back to the cursing another practitioner, you have no clue what their defenses are. What? You don't want your energy coming back to you. You just don't. Just don't waste your breath on it. I don't know. I was always taught live and let live. If it's not going to directly affect me and my family, I don't care. I don't care. Is witchcraft an everyday thing? Is it only for special occasions? Like I said before, witchcraft to me happens all the time. All day long, every day. Everything you do is possibly an act of witchcraft. So, I have to feed my cats and my dog. That's still possibly an act of witchcraft. I always end up stirring the wet food and the dry food for the cats together, which they each get a little wet and a little dry, clockwise. Always. Just to bring in positivity and good health to them and, good digestion. Just because it's simple. I'm already making them food. I love these animals. I'm just going to put a little bit of intention into stirring their food so that they feel healthy. I recently lost one of my pets. He passed away at the age of 15 in his sleep. He was old. He had cancer, and it all apparently just culminated while we were all sleeping, and I woke up and he was no longer here. But before that, and I knew he was sick. He's too old. There's not really, unfortunately, a purpose to putting him through chemo or any of the other things. It was more managing the pain and all the other things as he progressed. And I would always stir in a little bit of like, I hope you have a good sleep. I hope you feel good today. I love you into his food. I would always stir that into his food because the dogs also get a little wet and a little dry. Now the dog. I would always stir that into the food. You know, just, I love you. I do that when I'm making meals for my family. A lot of people say cook with love. I intentionally think about it. I think about the people I'm going to feed with this meal, and I stir it in. And next question. Do you meditate? I try. I sit in front of the candle on my altar a lot and give it my best shot. I meditate before bed. I do breathing exercises, really. It's not meditation. It's more focus on counting and breathing, which is a form of meditation, just to get my heart rate to go down and get me ready for sleep. I don't do astral projection consciously. I've never done it consciously. I've done it unconsciously, as in when I'm sleeping. But never consciously, and I haven't done it in No, I haven't done it since my daughter was born. Unconsciously, even. It's been 7-8 years. Do you practice divination? If so, what techniques do you use? I do tarot card. I draw tarot cards. I'm not good at it, so I just I draw one of my oracle cards as like, what do I need to focus on today? And then I draw 3 tarot cards. I have a lot of different decks, and I'm trying to I know I have a lot of different decks, and I don't even know which one I like. I'm trying to read them out as to what they're good for. Like, which ones are easy for me to read as a beginning tarot card reader. There's a couple clear standouts, but I'm still working with the other ones to see, like, okay, so what if I ask these kinds of questions to you? Do you like these kinds of questions? Or do you like these kinds of questions? The one I did today didn't like the question I asked. It gave me an answer, and the answer is correct. I thought it would be the other kid, but it was correct. But yeah, I do tarot. I do have pendulums. I've used them once or twice. I have 2 of them. I was gifted one, and I purchased one. But I use them a little bit. I do have a black stone scrying thing. And I do have a selenite sphere. I've never used the selenite sphere for that. I just really, really like it. Actually, it's right here. It's beautiful. I really, really like it, and I like having it on my altar. But it could be used for scrying. I don't have any of the other things. Put that cover back on that. Yeah. Moon phases, planetary correspondences, day of the week, hour, etc. irrelevant or key? Truthfully, I believe that you can get done whatever you need to get done without any of that. However, if you want a little assistance with what you're doing, the correct correspondences can definitely help and give it a boost and really set your intention as clearly as you can. Especially early on for me, correspondences helped so much because it'd be like, okay, well, I want to do this thing. And then I would start researching and whatnot, and then it'd be like, okay, so according to the days of the week, I need to do it on Friday. And then I would actually schedule time to do it and whatnot. Like, now, again, that's actually pretty key for me, being a mom with 2 kids and a full-time job and all these other things that I have to do, you know, housework and whatnot. It's nice to go, hey, Friday, I need an hour. I can tell my husband that. Friday, I need an hour. I'm planning on doing it from 7 to 8. Can you watch the kids while I take my hour. And he's, he can at least plan for that himself. As far as like his commitments and like, I want to go somewhere. No, I already told you, blah, blah, blah. So I think it is in truth irrelevant, but it can also be a magnificent enhancer for what you are doing. Spell language: simple, dress it up, poem, or silent. If I am going to say it out loud, I don't always. Sometimes I don't say anything. If I'm going to say it out loud, I like it to be a poem. I like it to rhyme. Then again, there are times where you do the off-the-cuff spells and it is just whatever I say. I don't dress it up. I don't use fancy language. I just say what it is I want. What it is my intention is, what I'm trying to do. If I write it down beforehand, it's always going to be in poem form. And sometimes when everybody's asleep in the house and you're trying to do something, being silent is the best policy. Do you keep a book of shadows or a grimoire? Yes, I do. I have a book of shadows, actually. It's huge. Book of shadows. And then that has correspondences, gods and goddesses. It's gonna have herbs and like tarot, basic tarot meanings and whatnot. And then I have this, which I use as my spell book. It only contains spells, cleansings, chants, actual like, these are the words and this is how you do this spell, and how candle magic is, and I might have some basic things in here of that, like how do you write a spell is in the black one, but I don't have like a spell in there. They're all in the brown one. Do you have an altar? Yes, you're sitting on it. I have my phone sitting on my altar right now while I do this. Is it dedicated to a specific deity, season, or anything else? It is. I mostly use it to work on my Book of Shadows. So it's mostly dedicated to knowledge and the furthering of. There are 4 deities sitting on 5. 5 deities sitting on my desk. 5 deity statues. And I won't say it's devoted to a deity because there's 5 of them that I have worked with. One of them only very in passing. So there's Anubis, who I work with, especially recently since my pet passed away. I work with when communicating with the dead or dealing with ghosts, ancestors, that sort of work. Past lives, etc. He's the one I call upon for that. Then I have Bast, who is... she's been there since I was a kid. A lot of my astral travel is with her. Regardless of whether the other ones, some of the other deities show up, like if I'm doing past life work or something and I, meditate and it doesn't really work and I fall asleep, Bast is always the one who comes and gets me. Like with the past life work, she came and got me, took me to the astral plane after I fell asleep. This is a dream I remember very well. Took me to the astral plane, and then handed me off to Anubis to go and do my past life work. And like she followed as a cat. She didn't do anything else, and he took over and did the whole thing. And it was an interesting time in the astral plane. And then we have on the north side, we have Queen Frigga. I work with her a lot as her and Bast as a mom. They're both very helpful with all the day-to-day dealings of being a mother. And then I have Freya. She's the one I work with when I'm not feeling me. I am on a weight loss journey and learning to love the body I have now compared to the body I had before kids. She's very much helping me with self-love, confidence, knowing who I am and what power I have, various other whatnots. Not taking shit from people, but also, is it really worth it? Then there's Odin. He's represented on my altar as a raven, because that's what I have. And I don't work with him, but I work so much on improving my knowledge of what I know and whatnot that he didn't push his way in. He's not really here most of the time. But his wife is, and he likes her. So he tends to, like, hey, you're working on your book. I'm just gonna be here and give you some inspiration. And, knowledge doesn't come free, etc., etc. And he helps me work for it. Work for the deeper things that I want to know. Thoughts on the afterlife? There is an afterlife. I personally believe in reincarnation. I believe that spirits are on the earth for a while sometimes, like ghosts and whatnot. I have seen them. In regards to deceased family, I have seen them. I have smelled them, etc., etc. I believe that you can stay as long as you want. You can move on whenever you want, and that eventually you can just rejoin the energy of creation. Do you practice witchcraft with your children? Yes. My daughter has her own altar. It's next to mine. My son is too immature to do this. He's the younger of the two. My daughter's 7, he's 5. He's not ready yet. He doesn't understand the concepts a lot. He does bring me pretty things. Like, took a walk and he found a goose feather from a dead goose. And he gave it to me and we cleaned it up. I believe you're not supposed to pick these up and stuff, but, yeah, well, it came in the house before I told him that, so. And he says it's his now, and I'm not gonna argue with him too much. Yes?
I'm trying to find my Amy back.
Okay.
So I'm ready.
I'm trying to film a video.
Okay.
That's my daughter, by the way. Do you have a totem animal? If so, what is it? I don't know if it's a totem animal or just a spirit guide or spirit animal or however you want to put it, but the crow was the last one I knew of. I haven't checked in lately on that, but yeah, crows. What are some witch books that influenced you? When I first started, the only books I could get a hold of were Wicca books. They've influenced my craft a lot. The Wheel of the Year, etc., etc. It is a lot of things that I tend to follow. One of the first ones I read was... Close that door, please. Wicca by Scott Cunningham. The Solitary Practice. I read that one. I read things by Silver Ravenwolf. I didn't enjoy them as much, especially compared to Scott Cunningham's books. It was very like, I like this one better. Matter of fact, I don't think I own any of her books. I own a lot of his. I read some of DJ Conway's books. Those were a couple of the authors that I read a lot of in the beginning. Question 28. Tools. Handmade only. Natural materials only. I only need my will, or anything works if I want to use it. Any of those will work, personally. I do not make tools that often. I think on my altar currently, I have one thing I've made. One, and that's my wand. And that's it. Everything else I've purchased, or been gifted, or has come to me in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. I think picking the right tools is just as good as making them. I didn't just go out and buy the first black-handled double-edged dagger that I found to be my athame. I spent time and found this one. It's big. It's almost a mini sword, but I love this one. This is what I wanted. And when I saw it, it was like, yep, that's it. That's the perfect one. It took years for me to find that. I was 20. It took 4 years for me to find that dagger specifically to be my athame. I only made my wand 3 years ago. I didn't have one up until then, because I used my finger. Because I felt I'm not going to have a bunch of XYZ. I'm going to wait. Your will is good enough until you can get what you want. I do find it a lot easier with tools than I did without. I will say that. I love tools. I love the visual representation and presentation and all that. Are they necessary? No. Do I sometimes do spells without them? Yes. Do I sometimes base spells based on the fact that the tools will make it more potent? Yes. I have a hard time, especially with all the distractions, concentrating long enough to get a spell done by will alone. Sometimes I don't have choices on that. Do you have a magical name? No. Currently, no. I don't work with any entities I worry about that with. I will eventually have one. I have a book on the subject I haven't read yet. I'm contemplating it. I'm moving the thoughts around, but I don't have one. And here's a list of favorites of mine. This is the last question. Your favorite season? Late fall, early winter. It is a very specific time. I don't like early fall where it's still hot. I love winter. But I really like it when all the leaves are on the trees and it's cold. Cold. Like there was frost on the ground this morning, cold. That is that season. That short little bit of time is my season. I love that time of year. Your favorite herb? I love lavender. Lavender is just, it smells so good. Oh, I love most flowers, but lavender, lilac, oh, they smell so good. Favorite crystal? Tiger's eye. The depth of it, the iridescence in it, it's one of the first crystals I really felt a connection with. Favorite rune? This one I actually had to look up because I forgot what it was called. I wore it well, I didn't wear it. It was wrapped around my bouquet when I got married. Because I wanted to invite love, marriage, commitment to that ceremony. And it is the one that looks like an X. Gebo, I think is what it's called. Gebo. And it's, yeah, it means marriage, fidelity, commitment, that sort of a thing. And I really wanted to pump up that energy in my hands sitting on that bouquet, waiting for time to go down the aisle. It was there with the rose quartz. And I was just, my fingers are just touching it under the ribbon, and it's just, yeah, I have a personal connection to that. Tarot card. I don't have one. I really like the visuals of the strength card. The taming the lion with a pet rather than a sword. Like, that visual, I really enjoy. It's the prettiest card to me, no matter what deck I'm looking at, generally speaking. But I don't have a favorite as far as meaning goes. They're all useful, no matter what. No matter what situation it is or anything. They're all useful in the situation. Your favorite symbol / sigil. I love the Ankh. Bast being the first goddess I really connected with. Anubis after that, because I'd had some people pass away. I say a lot, and I'm going to work on that. The Ankh, being the representation of life eternal, life renewing. I like that symbol. I have a ring that has it on there. I have a ring that has it on there. I used to have a painting where I painted it on there. I don't anymore. But, yeah, that's my favorite symbol. And that is all the questions. So, this video is going to be 40 minutes long. I'm going to try to film another video right after this, just so I have something to upload again later. Because I actually have time today. Okay, that was the Get to Know Me Witchy Tag. I hope you know more about me now than you did before, considering you never saw me before. Goodbye, YouTube.